Good evening, and we're reconvening our July 7th meeting. If you'd please stand and join us in the flag salute. Mr. Tom Howie will be leading this.
Yes, good evening, everybody, and please join us in saluting our great flag. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United
States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Tom. I'd like to ask our attorney, Mr. Galante, to report out of closed session.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council and audience. The City Council met on the sole item listed on the closed session agenda, namely liability claim, the claimant being Pin Main Ling and Alan Bin Wang individually, and as successors in interest to Li Z Wang claimants, and the claim is against the City of Chino. Following discussion, City Council by motion of Mayor Pro Tem Howie, seconded by Councilmember Hargrove, carried 5-0. City Council authorized a settlement agreement in exchange for full release of claims, no admission of wrongdoing or liability. The city would make a total of $1 million payment of its self-insured retention, which includes any attorney's fees paid in that matter, with the insurance proceeds covering the balance of a total of $2.995 million as a full release and settlement. That concludes the report out of closed session.
Thank you very much.
And that was carried 5-0. Sorry.
Okay, thank you very much. Next on our agenda is, do we have any, Mr. Valentine, do we have any additions or revisions?
I have no changes, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Under public announcements, Park and Recreation Month. First, as we all try to phase back into our normal routines, we're still ensuring that we're keeping each other safe by practicing social distancing as we meet in the City Council chambers. However, regardless of these limitations, we would still like to recognize the outstanding programs and individuals we have in the community. So, as an alternative to past practices, we will continue to recognize proclamations and certificates with the understanding that the intended recipients will unfortunately be unable to physically accept these forms of recognition. With that said, I'd like to announce that we will be proclaiming July 2020 as Park and Recreation Month in the City of Chino. As many of you know, the City of Chino has always made a concerted effort to ensure our parks are some of the best in the region. With over 270 acres of land dedicated to parks, the city has made parks fun, safe, and available to all, which is certainly a source of community pride for all Chino residents. Moreover, with all our park amenities now open, Chino parks are once again being enjoyed by all Chino residents, with social distancing precautions, of course. We also look forward to bringing back the best community services programs in the Inland Empire, with programs such as summer camp, garden workshops, in-person counseling, virtual recreation, facility rentals, museums, and community centers available to our residents. I believe there is no better time than now to proclaim July 2020 as Park and Recreation Month in the City of Chino and reaffirm our commitment to always providing excellent parks and recreation programming to all of our residents. Now, in lieu of having our community services commissioners and staff accept the proclamation and speak about our parks and recreation programming, we have a video that we can all enjoy.
We are Parks and Recreation.
We are Parks and Recreation.
We are Parks and Rec.
We are Parks and Recreation.
I'd like to recognize Bertha and Jorge Preciado for earning the July 2020 Mayor's Home Beautification Award. Let's see, staff is now going to show that picture. It's because of your hard work that Chino continue to be an attractive place to live, work, and play. Additionally, because folks like you take such pride in home ownership, Chino can continue to be very proud, be a very proud and distinctive community. Congratulations and thank you for everything that you do. Okay, we'll make sure they get the awards that we always hand out. Additionally, I'm excited to announce that as of June 30th, the Chino Branch Library has reopened its doors to the public. Please note there is a 1-hour time limitation to visit the library or to use the available computers. However, the library will be available for printing services, to pay fines and fees, or to browse and check out any library material. The library has taken all precautions to ensure both the public and staff's safety, so please be rest assured that face masks, sanitizing wipes, gloves, and hand sanitizers will be made available to all library customers. For all questions, please call 909-465-5280. Also, please remember to take the 2020 Census survey. It's Chino's once-in-a-decade chance to make sure that our community is accurately reflected. Your action today helps ensure that Chino gets its fair share of resources, such as funding for schools, programs, and emergency responses for the next 10 years. Chino in 2030 depends on you. Need help responding to the survey or misplaced it? We can help. Email administration@cityofchino.org or call 334-3307. And then lastly, I'm going to be adjourning this evening's tonight's meeting in honor of Josephine, but everybody called her Josie Cerda Rizzo. She was born on November 17th, 1939 in the city of Los Angeles. She was raised with her parents, 4 brothers, and 2 sisters in the city of Pomona, where she attended Alcott and Pomona High School. Josie met and married Fred Rizzo, and her family moved to the city of Chino in the late 1960s. The family was extremely well known for being exceptional cooks. Josie began operating the El Rancho Grande restaurant located at 3929 Riverside Drive, along with her 7 siblings and her mother and father, Jim and Connie Cerda. El Rancho Grande was a very well-known and beloved family restaurant specializing in traditional Mexican food and specialty dishes. The restaurant was a favorite location not just for the Cerda family and their friends, but over time it became established as a well-known location for Chino residents to gather, enjoy home-cooked food, and socialize. Josie and Fred raised 3 children in Chino, Judy, Joey, and Jackie, all of whom held their first jobs at the family restaurant. Nearly everyone in Chino during the 70s knew of El Rancho Grande and their delicious food. Some of their specialty items were their homemade flour tortilla chips and salsa, green chili burritos, and their delicious homemade flour tortillas with butter. Unfortunately, this iconic restaurant was destroyed in a kitchen fire, ceasing the restaurant operations permanently, but this didn't stop Josie from doing what she loved, cooking her delicious food and serving her community. Josie then branched off into a catering business and operated J&J's El Rancho Grande Catering. Josie and her daughter Jackie operated their catering service for over 15 years prior to Josie slowly transitioning into retirement to stay home and cook her delicious food for her family and close friends. Josie will be remembered as a noble, talented, fun, determined, and hardworking businesswoman and a person of her faith. She was a long-standing member of our Guadalupe Church, Our Lady of Guadalupe Catholic Church. Josie also loved her husband, Fred, of 63 years. She's survived by all of her siblings, Tony, Louie, Jimmy, Rick, Mary Lou, and Lita, her 3 children, Judy, Joey, and Jackie, and her grandchildren, baby Joe, Lachelle, Crystal, little Joey, Justin, Jared, Albert, Faith, Sierra, Marie, True, Andrea, and Anthony. She also had 8 grandchildren. Josie's children were her pride and joy throughout her life. She passed on June 17, 2020. Her legacy of service to Chino and her deliciously cooked food will be missed. My husband grew up with many of the Serta family, and many of them are here this evening. Josie will be missed. She was such a gracious hostess, and her food was so delicious. There were many gatherings at El Rancho Grande. They had a really nice pool out and back, beautiful plant material, and it was just really fun to go there, really fun. So Josie's going to be missed, and I'm so sorry that you've lost her from your family. Yeah. Thank you for being here this evening. Okay. Under public comment, this is the time and the place for the general public to address the City Council about subjects that do not appear elsewhere on the agenda. Due to council policy and Brown Act requirements, action will not be taken on any issues not on the agenda. Ordinance number 97-08, Chino Municipal Code Section 2.04-090 limits speakers to no more than 5 minutes in which to address the council, except as provided under Government Code 54954.3B2. Our first request to speak this evening is from Pastor Mike Spradlin from the Valley Christian Church. He's going to lead us in an invocation this evening. So anyone who would like to join, please stand.
Thank you so much. If you would, join me in prayer. Father in heaven, thank you so much for allowing us as a community to come together tonight to honor Josie, first of all. Lord, we're grateful that we have a chance to do that. We ask your blessing on the family as they grieve and ask for your comfort. Father, we turn to you and we thank you for the privilege of celebrating Independence Day recently. And Lord, that is a huge thing for us as a country, and we are blessed. But Lord, I've been wondering just the past few days what it means to rethink dependence. And Lord, I believe that we need to be dependent, first of all, on you. Lord, we are just overwhelmed with COVID right now and all the things that are happening with injustice as we see it in our land, and obviously, Lord, some of the violence that's taken place. And so, Lord, we want to be dependent on you. We turn to you. We ask you for healing in our land. We ask you for healing specifically for those that have been affected by this virus and who are going to continue to be affected. We ask that you stay that. Lord, I think it's all of our prayer tonight that you place your hand on our country and remove this, and from around the world. So, Lord, we want to renew our dependency on you. But, Lord, I think of the friends that are here in this room and outside. And, Father, I thank you for the dependency that we have on one another to make it through. Whether it's a fist pump or a kind word, we all want to do air hugs with everyone. Father, we need each other, and this time more than ever. And, Lord, when our country is really polarized, and that translates into our community, can be polarized, Father, we live in a great place. We work in a great city. And Father, I ask that you renew in all of us a dependency on one another for the wonderful things in life, to give us that joy again and continue to do that. Thank you for our volunteers in this city who work tirelessly to make this place safe. I ask your blessing on our team here tonight, the leadership that we have, both our city leadership, our volunteers, our city council. Father, you have given us an amazing team. Help us to be dependent on one another to make this a great place with your help. And so, Lord, I ask these things turning to you because I know you listen, I know you care, and I know you love us. So, Lord, we turn our hearts toward you. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, prior to calling out the rest of the requests to speak, Angela, do we have any written requests to speak this evening?
Mayor, we did receive one electronic written comment, and this comment is from Zeb Wellborn, and it reads, Madam Mayor and City Council, the Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce is hosting a webinar on Thursday, July 9th via Zoom titled The Two Pandemics, COVID-19 and Systemic Racism Webinar Discussion. Panelists for the discussion will include Dr. Veronica Kelly, Director of the San Bernardino County Director of Behavioral Health, Pastor Jody Moore of Praise Tabernacle Church in Chino, Wes Simmons, Chief of Police, Chino Police Department, Tammy Martin Rouse, President of Black Chamber of Commerce Inland Empire, Kurt Hagman, Chairman of the County Board of Supervisors, Corwin Porter, Interim Director, Department of Public Health for San Bernardino County. We have an event page set up on Facebook where you can register for the event. The Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce has been working hard for businesses over the last 3 months, and I put out a letter from the Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce where we highlighted just some of the things we were doing to support businesses during the pandemic. The letter highlighted our outreach to our business community, survey results from businesses, email correspondence, daily coronavirus updates for businesses, efforts to continue our regular chamber programming, our efforts to assist businesses to get loans and grants offered by public and private agencies across the country, many of which were successful, Chino Valley Leaders webinar on the coronavirus, political advocacy efforts to support local businesses, residents offering takeout and delivery services, webpage and Facebook group, Back in Business website page, Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce pitch competition, which gave $5,000 in grants to entrepreneurial-minded students, video interview project highlighting chamber businesses, continuation of our large chamber events, personal case studies of businesses who we helped support during the time they needed it most. If you haven't been following our efforts and you have a vested interest in the Chino Valley business community, I'd strongly encourage you to read that letter and would love your feedback on how we can do the work we do even better. Thanks for everything. Zeb Wellborn, President, Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce. Thank you.
Angela, what is the event again, and when is it being held? This Thursday?
A webinar on Thursday, July 9th via Zoom titled The Two Pandemics, COVID-19 and Systemic Racism Webinar Discussion.
And you can find that on their website.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we do have a few written requests to speak. One is Mr. Bob Basil. Oh, I'm sorry, wait, that's item number 17. Never mind. Sorry about that. Okay, is there anyone else in the audience that would like to address the council on an item that's not on the agenda? Okay, then we'll move on to the consent calendar. I'm going to ask that item number 7 be pulled because I'd like the citizenry to know about this item. And is Nick Lagori here this evening? Because I'm going to ask Nick to do a presentation. You'll cover it? Okay, great. So do any council members wish to have any items on the consent calendar pulled? No? Any members of the audience wish to have any of those items pulled? Okay, no, then I would entertain a motion on the balance of the consent calendar. Motion from Mayor Pro Tem Howie, second from Councilman Lucio. And the balance of the consent calendar passes unanimously. Okay. Item number 7, I ask that it be pulled. It's temporary use of banner signs. I had been contacted by one of our businesses in town asking that we temporarily suspend not allowing banners to notify the public that certain businesses are open because there's such confusion right now with who's open and who's closed. So, Mr. Ballantyne?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and I think you covered it well. Really, the subject matter, there's a lot of ways in which a lot of our businesses can promote whether or not they're open, and under these circumstances, what's being considered by the council is just for banners. It does not include any additional type of like these flags or anything like that, which are prohibited by the code. It's just the promotional banners. There's a maximum size in the code, which is a percentage of the store frontage up to 150 feet. But there is, currently the code has a time frame, maximum of 90 days in which you can post these promotional opportunities, and what's before you is to allow this to continue for a 6-month period so that folks that are open, that are following the state guidelines, that our community is aware that they're open and certainly patronage the business. So that's what's before the council, is just to extend that period, but everything else is the same. And also, we're not charging for those folks. Typically, there's a $37 fee to post those banners. We're not charging, so we're kind of waiving the fee and allowing a 6-month period in which people can promote that their business is open.
Okay, great.
That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. I think it's really incumbent upon us to help the businesses try to get back on their feet. So I think anything that we can do to help certainly would be welcome. Okay, I would entertain a motion then. Motion from Councilman Lucio, second from Councilman Rodriguez. And item number 7 passes unanimously. Next, we have public hearing. Item number 17, sewer and trash rate adjustments. This is to declare the results of noticed protest hearings and approve certain adjustments for rates, fees, and charges for sewer and trash services. First, I'd like to declare the public hearing open, and announce that all protests must be submitted in writing and given to the clerk prior to the close of the public hearing. Our staff report this evening will be provided by Nikki Long, our billing manager. Nikki?
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. Tonight, I bring before you the utility funds rate structure analysis and the procedure requirements under Proposition 218 to implement these rate adjustments. The rate adjustments being proposed tonight include increases of trash, recycling, and sewer services effective July 8th, 2020. The proposed rate increases are specific to individual classes of customers, with the exception of the IEUA pass-through charge for the sewage treatment, which applies to all Chino customers. In response to COVID-19, IEUA has recently elected to postpone its previously approved rate increases. Therefore, customers will continue to pay the current rate until July 1st, 2021. The preserved sewer lift station fee is specific to residential, commercial, and industrial customers located in the preserve. Due to a recent rate study, the rate is being adjusted to more accurately reflect the actual operating costs. The trash and recycle rate adjustments being proposed today will adjust 1 residential rate and 3 commercial and multifamily rates. The proposed commercial and multifamily rates adjustments are necessary to meet changing legislative and market conditions for green waste, recycling collection, and disposal services. In order to adjust utility rates, the city is required to comply with California's Proposition 218. Therefore, in compliance with Proposition 218, the city has taken the following actions. On May 21st, 2020, staff mailed a notice of public hearing notifying 20,622 utility customers of the proposed rate adjustments, date, time, and location of the public hearing. Tonight, it is required that the City Council perform the following. The city must hold a public hearing on the proposed rates. The city must consider all written protests against the proposed rates. The city must adopt Resolution Number 2020-042 and Resolution Number 2020-043, declaring the results of a notice protest proceedings and approving certain adjustments for rates, fees, and charges for sewer and trash services. The city must also adopt Resolution Number 2020-044 and Resolution Number 2020-045, adjusting the rates for certain sewer and trash services. It should be noted that of the 20,622 notices sent to utility customers, 5 written protest letters have been received. This concludes my report, and I would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Nikki. Are there any questions of staff prior to public comments? Okay, we have 2 written requests to speak, first being Mr. Bob Basil.
Thank you for this time. My name is Bob Basil. I live at 12565 Strawberry Place in Chino. I've reviewed the information sent regarding the public hearing for proposed rate increase for sewer, trash, and recycling rates for the city of Chino. As a resident, I understand that rate increases are derived from IEUA, and proposed spending growth would not result in additional profit for the city. In my understanding, I likewise feel that the percentage increase for these services are realistic when spread over a 3-year term. My concern is for the timing of the first increase. We've been adversely affected by the lockdown that has resulted in COVID-19. Many of us have lost our jobs and remain unemployed, myself included. Our reemergence has been abridged by recent changes through the state of California. Many of our small businesses would likewise be adversely affected by the immediacy of this increase, which, if voted in favor, to my understanding, would begin tomorrow. Our city has always been a favorable climate for small business entrepreneurs, many of whom also reside in our city. I would like to propose that there would be a 4-month moratorium on the rate increase so that we can provide immediate protection and compassion that would be consistent with state and federal relief. This proposed change would add 4 months to the end of the 3-year term. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bob. Next written request to speak, Diane Boudreau. Haven't seen you in a long time.
Well, this brought me out. So, hello, Mayor Ulloa, council members. My name is Diane Boudreau. I'm a Chino resident. I too am in agreement with opposing any rate hike at this time. Excuse me. Just based on the fact that we are in a global pandemic, we have faced unemployment that nationally is echoing the Great Depression. And those are striking statistics right now. The projection is the businesses that have been closed were not bouncing back the way they were, and that affects the population. It affects their ability to pay. And I enjoy the city of Chino. I enjoy our services. I enjoy having regular sewage and waste management collect. We thank them for that. But at this time, at this place, with the global pandemic, with what people are going through, this uncertainty, I would also request that it could be deferred if it's possible, just to allow for some economic review as we continue in this global pandemic. There's projections that we're going to receive another stimulus check because we're not bouncing back. So to request a rate hike while people are trying to address, really basic issues, housing, utilities, et cetera, it would be, I would request that we could defer it. I'll go with his 4 months. I would even go further than that until we get a vaccine. Let's do that. Because the economic impact is real, and it's real for our residents and our businesses as well. So I really appreciate your time, and thank you for what you're doing, and stay safe.
Thank you, Diane. It's good to see you again. Those are the only written requests to speak. Is there anyone else in the audience that come up, please, sir?
Hi, my name is Lee Myers. I live in Chino here for 40 years. And the way you got this rate increase coming right now, I agree with the other two parties that were here. But the way the wording is in here, why can't we change the wording to say we need, on Prop 218, we need yes votes instead of no votes? That's all I have to really say. But I think you've got this worded wrong for people. Because you're not going to get that many people to send in papers to oppose all this. That's all I came for.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, we post in accordance with the law. Is there anyone else that would like to address this issue? Okay, then I will close the public hearing and turn it over to, let's see, okay, now, Angela, you're going to tabulate the protest letters.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, members of council, before the start of the city council meeting, the city received 5 written protests in response to the notice, and prior to the close of the public hearing, 1 additional written protest, for a total of 6 written protests that were received in response to the notice. Thank you.
Okay, council comments. Sure, Mark.
So, Ms. Valentine, whoever wants to answer this, does the city have any choice in this matter when it comes to this Prop 218? I know that we needed like over 10,000 opposing votes to shoot it down. But do we, as a council, have, if we don't have matched that requirement, what can we do? Can we say no to this thing? Can we defer it? Can we do any of those things? That's what I'm really curious about.
Yes. So the council can not go forward with the increase. However, this is a pass-through, so that the city would be subsidizing, particularly the sewer rates. And so the city would be on the hook. So we would have to pay that out of the general fund or the current fund balance for each of the enterprise funds. I think it's important to note, I hear the deferral regarding the sewer, as Ms. Love had mentioned. That is being deferred and not till July of next year, so they're not going to see a sewer increase until July of 2021. It's also important to note that a lot of the a lot of the trash rate impacts are impacted by most of the commercial rates. And then the only exception as far as the sewer rates is down in the preserve. Again, that's specific and it's only enjoyed by the residents in the preserve. There's a lift station that takes all the effluent that goes down south. It's pumped up to be processed, and that, the people down in the preserve are specifically responsible for that cost. So I just think it's important. I hear the deferral. I think the IAUA was recognized that they wanted a deferral, and they are deferring it till July of 2021. But this is the process that the state has dictated as far as, and I also hear the concern about asking for, people to vote yes on that. But this is, as the mayor's mentioned, has been defined by the state as far as the process of doing any type of increase.
Ken, go ahead. Did you have more?
No, other than, what do we know what that cost would be to the city? Because the way I see it is, we were paying it one way or another, right? It's just a way that we're going to be paying this fee increase. It's coming out of the coffers of the city reserves or budget, as it would be standing, which is paid for basically by the residents anyways, right? So it's whether those residents that have these services are paying that increase as opposed to those that aren't incurring those and are paying for it in one way or another. But do we have any idea what that would be that would cost the city?
Mark, are you referring to the 4 months deference?
Yeah, 4 months deference. That's kind of a number that's probably picked out of the sky now as it stands, but I don't know if we have any idea what that would.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think we would know what that cost is right now, especially a 4-month period. Like the waste management contract, it depends on who utilizes those services. A lot of them are based on number of pickups per week, and so it depends on,
Sure,
how
so a
many
lot of
pickups
these would
they're
be even
having.
commercial that are
Yeah,
ordering things up that we wouldn't have any idea, right? Bins and
right.
somebody could say, hey, let's clear out a bunch of stuff, seeing as the city's footing the bill now, let's order up some of these things and let them pay the difference, correct?
We could figure it out, but it would take some time. And the sewer lift station in the preserve, we're asking for a 90-cent per month increase. And so, I know it's impactful, but it's not a lot of money. But so we could figure that out, but it would take some time.
Very good, thank you.
And just looking at the sewer rates, if that looks like in 2021, they'll increase it by $1, and we have more than 20,000 accounts, so you're probably looking at least $20,000 a month to the city if we do not increase it.
Mayor, I think Glenda from Waste Management wanted to say something.
Like you mentioned, the rate adjustment is.
Linda, would you announce who you are?
Hi, my name is Glenda Chavez, and I'm the representative for Waste Management. I just
Do me a
wanted to.
favor.
Sorry, Madam Mayor.
It's hard to hear.
In that case, you'd have to reopen the public
that's
hearing to
okay.
hear.
Reopen the
comments.
public hearing. I apologize. I
That's
didn't
okay.
see you.
So in regards to COVID and, commercial businesses, we have had a substantial number of customers suspend or lower their service levels. So to have that idea of how much that 4-month, it would require a little bit of work on our part. So a lot of the customers have been able to make those accommodations because obviously they're not open, so why have trash service? So we have been working with them in that aspect.
What about homeowners? Have you been working with them?
Well, homeowners, because everyone is staying at home, we've actually seen a 30 to 35% increase in residential waste. So we have actually had to add about 6 more routes just to cover residential service because everyone is, producing a lot more waste since we're staying home. So we've seen a substantial financial cost to our residential line of business.
Unintended consequences. I didn't even think about that.
But it's important to note that the approval for the residential that's not being considered tonight. That we've already approved a 5-year rate increase. That was part of the franchise agreement that we had entered into a couple of years back. So before you tonight is not approval for the increase in the residential because that's already been previously approved through a previous 218 process.
Okay, so it specifically state what we're approving this evening for the public.
You're approving an increase for the IAUA pass-through, but again, the IAUA has deferred that till 2021.
Okay.
We're also increasing the sewer rate for the lift station for the preserve residents, as our finance director has mentioned. That is a 90-cent increase.
Okay.
The remainder, as it relates to trash rates, most of it's dealing with commercial or multi-tenant trash rates, and it's dealing with recyclables. And then the only component that's related to residential is if people do not receive a green waste or do not use a green waste bin, then they're assessed a fee. And now I think there were 3,000 accounts that fall in that category. So that's what's before the council this evening.
Okay, thank you. Then I'll close the public hearing again. Tom, did you have any comments?
Well, I was just wondering, did the Chamber of Commerce make any comments about the businesses as far as that go? Did we get any, we didn't get anything from the Chamber, did we?
No.
Not that we know of, okay. Okay, well, I mean.
Any other comments, Mark?
No.
I do.
Okay, Mr. Rodriguez?
My entire life, I've never seen a hearse pulling a U-Haul, and that applies even to a city. We can't take it with us. But I know that having lived in Chino my entire life, we've been compassionate for all our residents, and it's called humanism. And this COVID is for real. It's something that would help our residents, and I can understand 4 months, not very much. And I would be in favor of saying, let's delay it 4 months, showing compassion to what people are going through, including us here sitting here. That's the way I think.
So is that a motion? Is that a motion, Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes, I would make a motion that we accept the delay of 4 months and then move forward out of compassion and love for our residents.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, seeing none. Are we allowed to delay with the 218 process? Is there time frame in there to delay, or do we have to redo the 218?
Yes, Madam Mayor, and the council does have the discretion. You would still be implementing the approval that the Prop 218 process didn't secure sufficient protests. So you do have the discretion to approve it or modify it or extend it.
Okay, so then if we did, there wasn't a second, but just to clarify, if we did postpone it for 4 months, it would cost the city approximately $20,000 a month? Is that what I understood you to say?
No, I think if you defer it, by 4 months, first of all, before we make that decision, I would probably want to get an actual number for the council if that's the decision you want to pursue. Again, the sewer rates, except for down in the preserve, will not change until 2021. So the 4-month deferral is not going to affect the sewer rate.
Won't affect the sewer rates.
And the only thing it would do in the preserve would delay for a capital, for a piece of capital that needs to be maintained. We're just delaying, maintaining that facility. And that would be, the savings would be 90 cents for, 4 months. So that would be $3.60 per customer. The commercial, I don't know unless I saw all the accounts and what that impact would be. But again, those are more towards the commercial rates. So multi-tenant housing and our commercial businesses. And I don't have an accounting of, at least right now with me. I mean, we could certainly gather that, but I don't envision that being a significant savings to the individual for 4 months.
Well, I'd like to go out on a limb and suggest that we delay this to the next council meeting and get some numbers back to see if maybe it's feasible to delay it for 4 months. I think we owe the citizens that much.
Well, are we able to pass it tonight under the 218 and then come back and modify that?
The start time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that way we're passing what's required by law under that terms, but it's not going to affect whether we
Go into
determine
effect
later
4
to
months later.
That can be
further
done.
change.
Okay.
That can be done, and we can come back with a report on those commercial accounts and what the fiscal impact
And a
is.
decision on whether we start it in 4 months.
Correct.
Okay, is that a motion, Mr. Hargrove?
And if I may just clarify, I know the resolutions currently say that they'd be effective July 8th. So just to clarify that point, is the council's desire to defer that for 2 weeks and change the resolution effective date, and then you can revisit it?
I don't really foresee us trying to make it too complicated. I think my motion would be that we approve tonight the 218 as it stands now and look at this as soon as possible. I mean, if this is gonna cost a resident $1 or something for that first month, I don't think that's gonna be a huge impact on them. For us to then look at whether it's gonna be another year that we'll defer 4 months or whatever the case may be. I would certainly recommend at some later point that we probably look at it in groupings, not just to blatantly say a year, which maybe 6 months out and then another 6 months or some of that effect. But I don't want to complicate where we have to rewrite this whole resolution up when I don't think 1 month implementation of residents having to pay is going to be that huge of an impact on them.
So if I may, Madam Mayor, is the intent that the resolutions would be passed as written, but presumably at your next council meeting, you may amend those resolutions to provide extra time?
But would we need to amend the resolution at that point, or just?
Well, the resolutions state that the effective dates will be
Right.
July 8th, so
I understand.
that's why I asked that question.
I'm going to interject. I think, Mark, it would be a nightmare to implement it for a month and then have to go change all the rates again. So I think if we approve the 218 and suspend the start date pending the decision of the council on when the rates will start.
Right.
Matt, would that work?
Yeah, frankly, I'm comfortable with and support the recommendation by Councilmember Hargrove. I think we move forward with this, and certainly we can make the administrative decision to kind of hold on that increase.
Suspend
Correct,
the
until we get back to the
implementation of the
council.
increases, yes.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, there's a motion then to adopt the 218 process and suspend the start date pending information coming back to the council. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, there's this motion from Councilman Hargrove and second from Councilman Lucio. Please vote. Okay, and that passes unanimously. Okay. Okay, next, under new business, item number 18, contract amendment, RHA Landscape Architects and Planners Incorporated. Approve a contract amendment to RHA Landscape Architect Planners, Riverside, California, in the amount of $192,125 for landscape architectural services. Our staff report this evening will be provided by our projects manager Carolyn Baltzer.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the council. In January 2020, council approved contracts with RHA Incorporated and MIG Incorporated for on-call landscape architectural services to existing parks and facilities. Currently, RHA is designing the Monte Vista Park Improvements Project public right-of-way. Staff elected to add additional design services for the installation of conduit and pole boxes for future fiber optics as part of the project. The installation of fiber optics will improve the communication between City Hall and Monte Vista Park, allowing staff to work without communication disruptions. Also included in the proposal are accessibility improvements to the curb ramps on the east side of Monte Vista Avenue and D Street, which includes the relocation of fencing belonging to the homeowners, which was built within the dedicated public right-of-way. Staff met with the homeowners explaining the situation, and they understand their fences are constructed on city property and must be moved. Another project in which staff is proposing for RHA to complete design services for is the Central and Phillips Park Site Development Project. In March 2020, the city was awarded a Prop 68 grant in the amount of $2,858,075 to build a new neighborhood park. Staff requested proposals from both RHA and MIG for the new park. The competing firms were evaluated on experience, past performances, project team, scheduling, cost, and understanding of the scope of work. Based on the review of the proposals, RHA was selected to complete the project. Staff received a proposal in the amount of $160,625 for the park development and a proposal for the Monte Vista Park Public Right-of-Way project in the amount of $31,500. The current contract awarded to RHA for on-call landscape architectural services totaled $343,120. The requested increase of $192,125 will bring the total vendor cap to $535,245, in which staff is requesting City Council approval. This concludes our report. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. This isn't a public hearing, but is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council on this item? Okay, council comments? Okay, then I would entertain a motion, please. Motion from Councilman Hargrove, second from Mayor Pro Tem Howie, and the item passes unanimously. Item number 19, Professional Engineering and Design Service Agreement. Approve a professional services agreement with West and Associates Engineering Incorporated, Foothill Ranch, California, in the amount of $180,600 for engineering and design services for Yorba Avenue and Eucalyptus Avenue Sewer Replacement Project. Our staff report this evening will be provided by our CIP manager, Maria Frazier.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, and audience. Project SW211 Yorba Sewer is a sewer main replacement project included in the Public Works 5-year CIP list and has been identified in the 1993 Sewer Master Plan as an existing facility that does not have enough capacity for the flow discharges generated by the industrial businesses it serves. Discharge volumes cause the pipe to reach 75% of its capacity. The Sewer Master Study Plan also revealed a bottleneck effect occurring at Eucalyptus between Yorba and Monte Vista that needs to be remediated. A request for proposals was advertised on the city's Planet Bids online portal for design services for this project, and 7 proposals were received. The firms were evaluated and ranked by a selection panel based on the criteria set forth in the RFP. A summary of the consultants and ranking is outlined on the staff report. Based upon the evaluation criteria, West and Associates from Foothill Ranch, California, was ranked the highest based on their qualifications, staffing, references, understanding of the project, technical ability, and cost. Project plans, specifications, and estimates are anticipated to be completed by July of 2021, and construction is anticipated to start in the fall of 2021, and construction is estimated to be completed in approximately 4 months. Therefore, it is staff recommendation that the council approves the staff report with the recommendations indicated. This concludes my report, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Maria. Are there any comments from the public on this item? Council member input? None? Then a motion would be appropriate. Motion from Mayor Pro Tem Howie, second from Councilman Hargrove. Item passes unanimously. Item number 20, Professional Services Agreement, Pine Avenue at State Route 71, Ramp Widening Design, Project ST204. Approve a professional services agreement with EXP US Services Incorporated totaling $499,450 for design of the ramp widening at the Pine Avenue and State Route 71 interchange, ST204, authorized design contingencies. And our staff report will be provided once again by Maria Frazier.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, and audience. Last year, the City of Chino requested Caltrans to provide funds to help improve traffic circulation at the Pine Avenue and SR 71 interchange. This interchange is currently deficient and would require widening of the off-ramps to accommodate anticipated future traffic. The City of Chino is currently preparing plans for the extension of Pine Avenue from the existing terminus west of El Prado Road to SR 71. These proposed interchange improvements will also help traffic circulation once the Pine Avenue project is completed. Caltrans has agreed to contribute $1 million for the construction of the improvements required to increase the capacity on the interchange. The project will entail widening of the northbound and southbound off-ramps to increase the ramp capacity, the installation of a traffic signal at SR 71 northbound off-ramp to Pine Avenue, restriping the overcrossing between the northbound and southbound off-ramps, and the preparation of environmental reports and documentation needed to comply with CEQA requirements. A requested proposal was advertised on city's Planet Bid online portal for design services for this project, and 5 proposals were received. The firms were evaluated and ranked by a selection panel based on the criteria set forth in the RFP. A summary of the consultants and their ranking is outlined on your staff report. EXP US Services from San Bernardino, California was ranked the highest based on their qualifications, staffing, references, understanding of the project, technical ability, and cost. Project plans, specifications, estimates, and environmental documents are anticipated to be completed by September of 2021. Construction is anticipated to start in the spring of 2022, and construction will take approximately 6 months to complete. The cost of construction is estimated at $2.5 million. Therefore, it is staff recommendation the council approves the staff report with the recommendations indicated. This concludes my report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any members of the audience that would like to address the council on this item? Seeing none, any council comments?
Yeah.
Tom?
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. Mrs. Frazier, my question is, since this particular off-ramp, it automatically goes north now, but not, well, I'm trying to think of how it goes, north or south. South. Right. So it's going to definitely benefit Chino Hills. And my question is, have we or will we be approaching Chino Hills to help us with this funding since this whole situation is in the city of Chino Hills?
Yes, we have discussed this project with the city of Chino Hills early in the process. And we even went as far as invited them to participate in the selection process. So they're fully aware of the project. At this time, we don't have enough information on the design. So once we get about 30% of the design done, and it's our hope to meet with the city of Chino Hills, figure out what the parameters would be and how they could potentially
Help us out.
help us financially towards the building of the project.
Yeah, because I think definitely it was going to help them, especially off the 71 heading into their city. They'll have a new lane signal and the whole thing. So I'd like to see us attempt to recover some costs or help us pay
Yeah,
for the
we'll
cost.
approach them then about participation financially, but we need to kind of figure out where the project is at.
Right.
And what's
Okay.
going to affect and how much it's going to cost.
Okay, good.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, then a motion would be appropriate. Motion from Councilman Hargrove, second from Councilman Rodriguez. Item passes unanimously. Next item on the council agenda is mayor and council reports. Let's see, I'll try to make mine brief. Wednesday, July 17th, I attended the mayor's prayer breakfast. It was held this time at Chino Cafe. And it was wonderful to be able to meet in person once again. Some of the regular attendees were missing, but we also had a few new, and there were about 15 people there. So it was a good meeting. Met with staff and Zeb Wellborn, who's the president of the chamber, regarding how to hold our State of the City address this year. It's challenging because we have the State of the City pre-pandemic, and then obviously a much different picture during the pandemic, and we don't know when it's going to end. So we won't be able to address our normal, very popular and successful State of the City address luncheon. So we're considering a virtual event with video containing a snapshot of our city before COVID and then addressing our current situation with our best predictions on the near future. Thursday, June 18th, I attended the via GoToMeeting, attended the Water Master Advisory Committee meeting. Then I filmed another fireworks PSA pleading for people not to use illegal fireworks. Oh my goodness, which apparently a lot of people ignored, tragically. Then I met via telephone with a group from the Lewis Group of Companies regarding plans within the preserve for future shopping development, new elementary school, and pending housing development in the preserve. On Friday the 20th, it was supposed to be the one-year anniversary of the express car wash that had been planned but was postponed due to COVID. But I went ahead and presented the owner with a certificate of accomplishment anyway. And I understand, Mr. Rodriguez, you also went there and,
Nice car wash.
yeah, because there was no ceremony. On Tuesday, June 23rd, I participated in a conference call for the West Valley Mosquito and Vector Control District. And they're, of course, once again pleading with people to please be careful. These mosquitoes are extremely destructive with their diseases, and that's all we need now with COVID is to have dengue fever or something else pop up. So please be careful. On June 24th, due to having picked up Sparky from my vets following a surgery on his shoulder, I was only able to briefly participate in a video conference call with the League of California Cities, the Inland Empire Division meeting. And I heard part of Supervisor Hagman's briefing on COVID. Paul, I know you were on the call, so maybe you can kind of fill in the details that I missed. Thursday, the 25th, attended via GoToMeeting the Water Master Board of Directors. There was quite a bit of discussion regarding the court hearing on June 26th and how the proceedings were going to be handled. Court's now open, but those attending any hearings must comply with the court's emergency orders. Some Water Master bonds were refinanced with help of IUA, which will save taxpayer money. And the controversy surrounding the Optimum Basin Management Program implementation plan update continues with a draft plan from the appropriative pool being considered. The Ag Pool court contest has been postponed to July 29th due to a request for the postponement from the appropriative pool. That's all Greek to everybody but you. Wednesday, July 1st, the Omnitrans Board of Directors and the San Bernardino County Transportation Authority Board of Directors was held again via computers. And then on the 2nd, Inland Empire Utilities Agency Sewer Policy Committee meeting was held, again via computers, and they're going forward with the remodel of RP4, which is hundreds of millions of dollars. On Monday, July 6th, I met with Richland Communities with staff regarding some ideas about developing a piece of property that they own. And that concludes mine. Mayor Pro Tem Howie.
Excuse me, that was it? Eunice, that was it?
That was it, except that I'm so disappointed over the 4th of July.
Yeah, it was
fireworks.
It was brutal this year.
It was the worst I'd ever heard.
Yeah, I think a lot of people didn't go on vacation. They hung around and fired off every possible thing. It looked like
everything they could
right.
find. Yeah, I'm surprised windows weren't blown out.
A comment from my neighbors says, "Well, I don't know why the city has a fireworks show." There was one, that we actually have one before because it was just as good as our fireworks show that we spend a lot of money on.
It was crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. Anyway, well, I just wanted to say that I was so sad to hear, to read about Josie from Rancho Grande passing away because, that restaurant brings back so many great memories for me. I mean, from one hand, I coached a women's softball team, and we were always in the same league as El Rancho Grande, and they were always our major competitor. We had some epic softball games at Monte Vista Park and at Ayala Park, and Josie played for a while out there, but we just enjoyed the restaurant so much. In fact, my first fundraiser for City Council was at Rancho Grande. We held it in the back of Rancho Grande, and just a great restaurant, great people, great food. And I was just telling somebody the other day, I sure miss Rancho Grande. I love their salsa; it was fantastic, and the food was good. So, sorry to hear about Josie. Yeah. Anyway, just a couple of meetings. On the 25th, the Chino DeSalter Authority, I attended the finance meeting, and then the week after chaired the Chino DeSalter Authority board meeting. Nothing really major to report there. Still got plenty of water, so that's good. And then WFA TAC meeting, a number of different things for the Water Facilities Authority. And anyway, that concludes my comments.
Okay, Councilman Hargrove.
Okay, my comments are, my condolences also to Josie's family. I worked with Cheryl Serta. I think maybe she was a cousin for many years down at the prison, and we always had a big Christmas dinner there, the business services, and they always catered that event. And although it was on the complete opposite side of town from where I lived, I didn't get to frequent as much as I'd like to, but I remember the day the place caught on fire. It was just devastating. And I know the Champion does a good job of bringing up the memory of that place quite frequently, and people have so many comments. It's just astronomical how it impacted this community. And probably the biggest disappointment was they never reopened, and people were saddened by that. So again, condolences to the family, the Serta and the Rizzo family. I think Eunice went to all my meetings because I didn't really go to any, and none were really scheduled. The only that I'm liaison for that continues is the Chino Valley Unified School District Board meetings. They're in a challenging situation. I don't envy them at all. Sometimes I know we have challenges up here, but they had a study session number 2 today at 4:30. I would encourage people in the community to follow them on YouTube. They have their own channel. They're live now. They're Zoom meetings, but how are they going to reopen the schools, and what's that going to look like, blended or completely? I think it's one of those situations that there's no good answer for that, especially at this point. But it's fastly approaching that we do have to educate our children. And my daughter is a teacher in the district. My wife's a secretary at one of the schools. And so it impacts all of them also. How are they going to have to address this? And fortunately, my daughter just graduated and just became employed there. And so she has a lot of that new idea stuff in her head, that they teach. So, because it's certainly going to be technically challenged for not only just the teachers, but all the parents that have jobs and have to work, and how do they stay home and get their kid online, and it's a hell of a challenge for them. So I don't envy them at all, but I'm sure they'll get through it, and we'll get through all those things. 4th of July was a new impact for me. I'm fully aware of how much the sale of the products help or benefit our community immensely. Being a sports booster and church member and Boy Scouts and all those that have make some proceeds from them. We couldn't have operated at Chino High School sports boosters without those booths.
Yeah.
Not to the point that they would have, they completely impacted as much as the money we made, supplemented a lot of those social economics for kids and things like that. But man, it was probably worse just the month before this time. The day of wasn't any worse, even though I would say probably the PD and the fire may dispute that. But this was one of the times the dogs have always been scared, and my wife stays in the house and huddles them around and turns the TV on to full blast. And this is the first time I had a nephew over who's 3 years old, and then my grandchild was 2 years old, and they went outside to enjoy Safe and Sane that we had purchased, and within 5 seconds they were back in the house with the Disneyland parade show, or whatever you want to call it, was going on, and they were not going to have any part of that. So I kind of sit back and thought, I'm still in favor of, quite honestly, Chino having them. I know the rise of disagreement with that is on the rise, but I think a lot of this, that pandemic and all the other social stuff that's going on out there, I think I saw an interesting video of them flying a helicopter over Los Angeles, and so even those that have them illegal in their cities are just blowing them off just as much as we are here in the city of Chino. Yeah. So I don't know what that looks like, but probably maybe in the near future we can entertain looking at that and probably giving the public some input. The one thing I did want to, maybe Dr. Wright can dispel this rumor because I saw it more than once, is that the reason the city doesn't want to ban these is because we make such profit on them in the city that they don't want to have anything to doing with that. It's my understanding we don't profit from that whatsoever, and probably have some costs incurred with that. But just real quickly, if you could dispel what, or affirm what that is that the city pays or doesn't pay or profits from.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and council members. We do not receive a profit from this. There is a surcharge, and that charge is used to cover police costs, Public Works costs for the cleanup after fireworks. And that amount is from 0 to 10%. So it all depends on what our costs are. So we take that surcharge, which is 10% of their sales, and we put it towards that. Some years it's 4%, 5%, 6%. Typically when it's on a Saturday, it's probably the full 10%, but the city is not making money off of that. We also have the citations, the $1,000, $500 citations, and every year we probably collect about 50% of that, and then many of those people then will go into a payment plan, and then after that we have to attach it either to their taxes or their property tax to get payment. So we're not making huge money on these fireworks. The people who do profit are the people selling the Safe and Sane fireworks, and they do make a decent amount of money.
Thank you. So that, with that concludes my comments.
Okay, Councilman Lucio.
I first want to start off by giving my condolences to the Serta family on the passing of Josie. And to also to piggyback off of Mark, I know it's a rough year. I mean, everybody's been inside, nobody's been allowed to go outside. And I think just the 4th of July being on a Saturday, I think it just magnified the amount of fireworks that there were. I didn't see, where I live in that area, I didn't see as many as probably you guys saw, but I did enjoy being out there for the 4th of July. It's a big event for us. My parents all live in cities that don't allow fireworks, so at least my immediate family came and visited, and we celebrated, and we got together, something that we normally don't do because of the way things have been lately. I know a lot of people always talk about getting rid of fireworks, but there's a lot of people within the city that really enjoy the city because we do have the fireworks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things where you're never going to make everybody happy. I do obviously believe that we have to be out there. I thought we were policing a little bit more. I saw a helicopter flying around, so I was assuming that a helicopter was being utilized to track where the fireworks were. That might be something we may explore, another time if they continue to get worse, to try to help them out and pinpoint where the things are actually occurring. I would really hate to see them go away, especially since it helps so many nonprofits and booster clubs and things that are throughout the city. I know we limited the amount of permits that we gave out so that these people can make more money and at least be able to put their sporting events together and their nonprofits. So I'd really hate to lose that. It was for the first part of the week, I was gone on vacation, so I didn't attend too many meetings. I did attend the webinar on the 24th with the League of California Cities. There was a conversation about how much money we would be getting reimbursed from the federal government being trickled down from the state to us. I think it was 1.1 million is what our supervisor told us, Kirk Hagman. One of the things that was a little concerning was our lobbyist group for the California cities was talking about basically going in and allowing them to remove some of the tools that are utilized for crowd control situations. I thought that was something that we needed to probably have a conversation with some of the experts as to whether or not that's something that we should be considering, because it almost appeared like the League of California Cities lobbyist was just on board with just getting rid of it. I know it doesn't look pretty. Policing sometimes isn't pretty. But the reality is if you take away certain tools like rubber projectiles, tear gas, things of that nature, you're only really putting police officers in a scrimmage line with batons. And you're not giving them any other option but to use that to push a crowd back. And that's going to look a lot worse than deploying some gas and backing them up that way, as opposed to going hands-on with individuals. That will look considerably worse, and the injuries would be considerably worse. And the injuries on the officers would be considerably worse because they run the risk of getting injured. Injury is more likely in close combat such as that, and allowing people to get that close to you, especially when projectiles are launched from people towards police officers. So it was one of the things I talked to Matt. I asked him to look into that with the lobbyist group, and I really hate to automatically, just because there's some people over in Sacramento that believe that this is the way we need to do to appease some of the folks that we automatically just roll over and take away tools that we know have been effective. Obviously, I don't like to see that. I don't like to see the disturbances like that where it rises to that level. I'm all in favor for peaceful protests, people protesting what they believe. But obviously, there's always going to be that element of people that are going to push the envelope and aren't going to be those law-abiding citizens that are there just to share a message that they have. So in that sense, I'd really hate to cripple a department and tell them what they can use and what they can't use. One of the other things I attended, I actually had another webinar with Lewis Homes. They too talked about the preserve and the shopping center that they want to build in there, as well as the school that they would like to see built, and some of the issues that they're foreseeing as a possible problem. So we had a conversation with that. But other than that, that was all I had. That's all I have to report.
Okay, Councilman Rodriguez.
Okay, thank you. June 24th, I attended the webinar on the LOCC as Mark and our mayor attended for a while. And, you know, it's important to point out that the discussion is really affected a lot by the COVID that's happening and all the things that are happening. But I think it's, the lobbyists are doing their best to meet the needs of all the people. So it's still an act in process. One of the things that I noticed too is that the money being allocated is going towards homelessness, public health, public safety, and other services to combat right now the COVID-19. So that's very important, and that affects a greater community than just the city of Chino. It's the whole nation, all of Southern California. So I think that was important to see that. On June 27th, as was mentioned, the League of California Cities does have a YouTube presentation. So if you search YouTube, you will be able to see the legislative laws that they have passed by the legislatures of California, and it's not very long. You know, you can sit there with watch it on your TV, and with a bag of popcorn, and just listen to what they're talking about with all the briefs and all the laws that are in action. So it's a different way of communication that I think is important, not only for the city council to look at, but the residents, people out in TV land or whatever, to take a look. So one of the things that they did mention during the YouTube explanation of California legislative, as I mentioned, was the homelessness funding, which I think is very important because as our chief pointed out, and I do understand that the facts that homelessness will increase. It's going to be affected not just by socioeconomics, but also just by location. If there are no jobs available in LA, they're heading east to Chino, where everything grows. And we need to be prepared to be able to serve them and so forth. So I think in that part, that's very good. Another one they spoke about on that webinar on YouTube was the idea of transportation funding, where the governor did try to put a proposal to transfer $134.5 million in interest earnings from state highways accounts to the general fund. Well, that was rejected. So we're going to be able to use that money for transportation. And then lastly, they spoke about broadband. And I think even Kurt Hagman did bring that up, that Eli Musk, or the Tesla guy, is proposing a satellite that will go up in space that will be able to provide internet service for us in Southern California. He's going to be using our area as a pilot. I think that's going to put a lot of competition with Verizon and AT&T when this guy Musk is out there, putting satellites all over and providing. I think that's good for a lot of people, including us included. So lastly, with the 4th of July, we had a good time during the day, and I was tired. So my dog Ruby and I, we just sat down and turned on the Netflix, and I watched Warrior Nuns. Warrior Nun. It was pretty good. Ruby was very wasn't affected by the noise, and even with she was very attentive. She's only a year old, so in fact, she even fell asleep even as the house shook with all the spectacular noises that were out there. So that's why I spent my 4th. Had a good time during the day. Lastly, we just celebrated the 4th of July, and I was reading an article how when you think about Thomas Jefferson, how he wrote the Declaration and many of the things in there. And we had the other founders that edited, like Benjamin Franklin and John Quincy Adams and all that. And many historians see that as our moral compass, where he says life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The pursuit of happiness is really Jefferson taking that from Aristotle, where it really means a life well lived. So a moral compass that we have is still standing, no matter how people exercise their First Amendment, which they do have the right. I don't agree with all the burning and looting. I mean, throw them in jail, grab them, and get them out of here. But the idea that democracy is fluid, meaning it's continuously changing and transforming into something that will be better at the end. Because democracy, to say that it is here, we can't move it, we can't change it, that's not good then. And lastly, I know I'm a little bit earlier, but August 18th, we'll be celebrating the 19th Amendment. And I know in August we will be dark. And what is the 19th Amendment? Raise your hand, class. It's women's right to vote. And it took a long, long time for them to fight for that freedom. So it goes to show you that democracy does change. And it does change for the better as times go by. And I think we need to look at what is happening now as an idea that maybe legislators will wake up to certain things and say, okay, we could still make it better for everyone, where justice for all is really something real and not some words that you just say and keep moving on. I know as a teacher in elementary school and high school, I said the pledge every morning. And I had my kids would stand, of course, those that had religious reasons. I didn't tell them to say the pledge, but I did have them stand out of respect just for me, because I was their teacher, but not to say the pledge. But it's important for them to understand, even at a young age, the importance of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. A life well lived, a human life well lived, from Aristotle, the Greek philosopher. So that concludes my report.
Okay. City Manager Ballantyne, any report this evening?
I just want to reiterate what Dr. Rodriguez stated as far as the council will be dark for the month of August. We had made that announcement in the past, so we do have a large agenda for July 21st, and then we'll pick up certainly after Labor Day. So we'll be dark in the month of August. That concludes my reports.
Hey, Matt, can't we get you a real microphone next time?
I'm trying to be fiscally conservative.
Save money.
He uses that when he sings in the play.
There you go.
City Attorney Galante, no report? Okay. Chief of Police, Wes Simmons.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. And first, I want to also give my condolences to Josie's family. I'm very sorry for your loss. As a young police officer, that was one of the first places I was taught to go eat, and enjoyed it immensely. And we also had quite a few of our police events there. And I always remember enjoying going into the back and looking at the pool, because the tile you had on the pool was the same tile at my parents' house. So wonderful.
And I don't think anyone ever fell in.
Nope.
I never
Nope.
saw anybody fall in.
certainly a lot of fun
Yeah.
there.
It was.
I wanted to cover a couple of things. First, in regards to Council Member Rodriguez's comments reference homelessness. So we just received word that the state of California is moving forward with a second round of early release of state prisoners. So they're gonna be starting that now. What we received from the Secretary of the Department of Corrections was they estimate at least 30% of those that they release are at risk of homelessness. So that's certainly a concern with us, and I'm gonna share that with some good news though, and that's our new department app. So our department app has gone live, so people can download that on their Apple phones or on their Google phones, and one of the features on there is to report a quality of life concern. So if there's a quality of life concern, you can go right on your phone and report that to us, and we'll get to that as soon as possible. These are not for 911 calls or for crimes in progress, but just concerns that people have, and they can report that. A lot of other functions on there. Took us a little while to get this up and running because of staff changes, but we're excited to have this going.
What app is it?
It's called Chino Police Department. So if you search in the App Store, Chino Police Department, you can download the app and utilize that. And then I want to talk about fireworks. Obviously, this was a significant year for us. Typically, we find the weekends in Chino on the 4th of July are actually quieter than the weekdays. And the reason for that is most Chino people go away on vacation during the weekends in the month of July. Obviously, this year was different. And we anticipated that and staffed accordingly. The beaches were closed. People did not go to Hawaii. They did not go on vacation. There was no professional fireworks shows other than the ones that were coming out of your neighbors' backyards, which we were well aware of. We did do some significant enforcement for the 6-hour period from 7 to 1. We issued 24 citations. Prior to that, and the time leading up, we issued 9, so a total of 33 citations compared to the 40 we did last year. So we were down, but we also had some significant calls. We had 16 fires that we had to respond to. Fortunately, as the fire chief will talk about, there was no major property damage, but our officers were required to respond to those and assist in a couple of cases. We did have a couple of other significant calls that tied up our officers that were specifically designed for fireworks enforcement. One was a shots fired call that was coming from a neighborhood where somebody was firing off their gun. And then another one was a gentleman who was harassing a neighborhood that was having their gathering and ended up pulling out a knife and threatening him with that knife. We were able to get that gentleman in custody as well. Our calls for service overall were up. We had 386 calls for service during that 6-hour period compared to 303 the year before. And the fireworks specific calls were 225 compared to 206. So again, they were up, and if you were out and about, it was probably the most professional fireworks show I've ever seen, coming from all over the place. Obviously, we do not have a helicopter, but we utilized our drone, and we were able to pinpoint some people with that and issue some citations behind the use of that as well. So, and that's all I had to report, unless you have any questions for me.
Okay, any questions of the chief?
All right, thank you very much.
And Chief Shackelford from our fire department.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before I address fireworks, just a couple announcements. We have some high temperatures predicted for later this week, temperatures in excess of 100 degrees, so the fire danger is going to be elevated. And also just a reminder to look after those at risk, seniors, and especially pets. Be careful with that, and also children in cars. Our Board of Directors will be meeting tomorrow night at 6 p.m. at the Training Center on Schaefer. It is open to the public. We have limited capacity, and also the public can join the meeting virtually, and that's tomorrow at 6 p.m. As far as fireworks, Chief Simmons and I had a couple conversations over the weekend and through today. I've been with the fire district nearly 29 years. I've worked almost every 4th of July. This was by far the most activity I've ever seen. In terms of illegal fireworks, by far the most activity as well. Some of the statistics, our call volume was more than double an average day, up over 50% over 4th of July last year. As Councilmember Hargrove pointed out, we were not alone in this in terms of the city of Chino. This was a regional issue for us. Confire, who's our dispatch service provider, they provide services to a number of fire departments in the county. For that day, 3,452 phone calls through the center. They dispatched 1,175 incidents, which was 40% more activity than their busiest day on record. So it was quite the day. We had 21 fires total. A number of those were in Chino. A couple reported structure fires. Fortunately, they were not, but a number of grass fires, tree fires, fence fires, dumpster fires, a couple vehicle fires as well. Fortunately, we had some additional staffing, no major incidents, and no injuries were reported. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Chief. Yeah, it was crazy. And it seriously was crazy. We stood out in the back. You know, we're really, really fortunate. I've got horses and of course the Dalmatians and stuff, and they've had a lot of desensitizing training, so when the big booms happened, they kind of looked up, but they didn't really react. But I know a lot of people's animals just go insane, which is just tragic. But I've never seen fireworks like we saw this year, ever.
No,
And you're right. I mean, they were like full-blown professional aerial. And I don't know what the bombs were that were being set off, but I mean, structures were shaking.
A lot of noise, a lot of aerial fireworks, a lot of firecrackers, all of which are illegal. So a significant impact to the financial question that was asked earlier. The fire district does not profit off of fireworks as well. The only costs that we recover are for our inspectors, the costs associated with the inspection services of the illegal fireworks booths that are all part of the city. So we do offset our costs with that, but beyond that, all the additional staffing comes out of our general budget. We did do some additional staffing for the day. One last comment back to the issue with the prison release and homelessness. There's also an impact on the fire side as well. CAL FIRE's reported that the inmate camp crews, so the hand crews that are utilized in a lot of the wildland fires, they are way down because of the early release that's occurred, and they're not sure what the future staffing looks like for those based on how things are headed with our state with the early release of prisoners and also the issues with COVID. So there may be some impacts as we move into fire season, larger fires in terms of hand crews that are available. We may have to rely more on aircraft and additional firefighters staffing engines versus the hand crews that are there.
Wow.
Any other questions that I can answer tonight?
Do you have anything good you can tell us?
It's really nice to see all of you in person, and I'm glad that all of you are here and healthy this evening.
Well, thank you very
Chief,
much. Good to
Chief,
see
one
you.
question.
Yes, sir.
Did you see any of those problems happening in Chino Hills? I mean, do they have fireworks calls as well?
So,
there?
so yes, we did have some issues in Chino Hills, not to the extent that we had here in Chino. And you know, looking at it, other cities where fireworks are not legal, they do have issues. That's clear. That was, if you looked at all the surrounding cities, they had issues. It's just not to as great of an extent. And I think Chief Simmons would agree, it makes the enforcement piece much more difficult when you have the legal fireworks component, when you have those folks that celebrate with illegal fireworks. So it just makes it a little bit more challenging. But the activity was far more significant in the city of Chino, but we did have some issues in Chino Hills as well.
Tim?
Yes, sir.
I guess the only good news is we don't have a lot of shake wood roofs anymore like we used to in the old days. You can imagine the fires you'd have had.
Yes.
The tile roofs and the comp roofs have really probably saved a lot of houses.
Yes, and fortunately, the weather was fairly favorable. It was very warm that day, but we did have decent relative humidity, which helps slow those fires. The humidity is going to be down this weekend, so I would just caution the public to be very, very careful.
What about weed abatement? Do you still have a lot of calls that you have to enforce?
So weed abatement's still ongoing. Our contractor has abated a number of properties that were non-compliant. The bulk of those are done. There are still some areas that are of concern, and some of the areas that were challenged with typically deal with Caltrans and some of the larger entities. If you look at some of the freeways, the on-ramps, off-ramps, a lot of that's been done, but there still are some challenges there with that.
Okay, well, hope you guys stay safe.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I wanted to say that, you know, there was a graph that I saw that showed that the air quality, the pollution from all the fireworks just spiked. It set a record.
You can smell it.
You can
Yes,
smell
it
it.
did, and I can hear more fireworks going off as we speak
There's still a
tonight.
few, you know, diehards out there.
Yeah,
Probably warrior nuns or something, who knows?
warrior nuns.
Thank you.
Jeez. Okay, with that, we are adjourning. We are adjourning in Josie's name. And again, condolences to the family. Lot of fond memories with her and Rancho Grande. So we are adjourning to our next regular meeting that will be held on July 21st, at 7 o'clock in these council chambers, with closed session at 6 o'clock if necessary. We are adjourned.